Hi humans, it's still Hannah with my recent reads. I've not been doing wrap-ups for a while. I unfortunately don't have all of them on me, but I will put pictures of whichever ones I'm missing on the screen. How far do I want to go back? I read Babel by R.F. Kuang and I loved it, but I think everyone's over Babel, so I'm just gonna move on. I read Exit Strategy by Martha Wells, and it is the fourth book in the Murder Bot Diaries series. And it was really good, but I also had trouble remembering the previous things that have been happening. But I also didn't care too much about that because it's just, I enjoy the plot, but why I read Murderbot is because of Murderbot, right? It's his perspective or its perspective. And their perspective, I don't know. It's Murderbot's perspective that is so fun to read about. A depressed robot with really dry, sarcastic humor. What more could you ask for? And I don't think the plot matters. I think it's Murderbot that matters. It's the existential crises you get to observe. The fact that it's a depressed robot that is designed to kill but doesn't want to. You know, it's amazing. I don't have that specific book on me, but here is the next book in the series. If this is the sequel, this is book 5. I'm honestly really excited to get to it. I think the series is meant to be like 9 books total, if Goodreads is anything to go by. So far, only 6 are out. Maybe the 7th is about to come out. I don't remember, but no. Are they 7? I don't remember. But next we also have Open Water, which I don't have on me, but I really, really enjoyed. This was by Caleb Azuma Nelson. I rated this 4 stars. I really loved it. It's basically about 2 young Black Londoners who meet and you kind of follow their dynamic. It's not a romance. Kind of. I can't call this a romance. It's a book with love as a theme, but also things like race and identity and trauma. And I think calling it a romance downplays, not that a romance can't be serious. I think it can. It's just, do you get what I mean? Like, it's not a fluffy romance. I feel like when you say romance, you think like really fluffy, cute things. This is not that kind of book. You follow a really complex relationship, but also complex relationships with themselves, the characters, and it's a little heavy, but it's written like poetry. Like, I've read poetry that didn't even get to compare to this man's prose. Like, his prose literally read like verse, like poetry. And I enjoyed this immensely. I thought it was wonderful. It's a contemporary that is, I think, really impactful, and I loved it. I loved it. I'm just going to mention these 3 books all together. This is The Hot Kink by Josiah Bancroft. I also read Arm of the Sphinx, which was book 2. This is book 3, and I also read The Fall of Babel, which is book 4, which I have downstairs. But book 2 is not here. Anyway, I read all 3 of the last of the series. So there are 4 books in the series of the Books of Babel. The first one was called Senlin Ascends, and then I read the next 3. And I seriously enjoyed this series. I think it's wonderful. Books 2 and 3, I enjoyed all of them. It's just that I think book 4, it's not disappointing. It's just, I was left with questions, and I wasn't happy with that. But we basically follow this headmaster named Thomas Senlin, who wants to go to this really extravagant tower on his honeymoon with his new wife. And the moment they get there, basically, he loses her. And this is the kind of place where, like, people lose people and they never find them again. So it's kind of a hopeless case, but he's determined to find her. And we follow him basically just trying to find her throughout the series. But you also observe the most incredible character development probably ever that I read about. I don't know. It's crazy. Senlin just kind of does a whole 180, completely different person. And you see his values and morals have to shift. And the characters that you meet along the way and the relationships he has to build along the way. It's like I love the trope of unlikely characters coming together, and I love found family, and these types of relationships are ones that I love. You also get to learn about his relationship with his wife and how they came together and where it started from, and his perspective of the relationship, and maybe certain truths about it. And it's so good. And it's kind of like this is okay, hear me out, hang in there. So in a sense, it reminds me a little bit of the Mistborn trilogy, in the way that when people would talk about the Mistborn trilogy online and they'd like try to sell it to you, I always felt like it sounds interesting, but like, what's all the hype about? That's how this feels, because I think Mistborn is so complex that nothing people can say can really do the series justice. And this series is like that. I don't think, because you can't say too much without giving it away. And it's just such a complex series. And the Tower of Babel is inspired by the actual biblical story of the Tower of Babel. And I think knowing that gives it a much richer blueprint or foundation. And it's incredible. It's somewhere between fantasy and sci-fi, but I don't think it's not too heavy on the fantasy and sci-fi. It's more just like a strange setting, but there's no magic system. And listen, I'm really upset that I'm done with this series, even though like book 6 was over 600 pages. I think it was like 630 something pages. And the fact that I still had questions in the end really upset me. But still, as a whole, this series, I feel like maybe it's done on purpose. Maybe we'll get another series, like an expansion of the world. And if that's the case, then I won't be too pissed anymore. But also, I'm still just a little bit pissed because I just thought it was like, I'll have all the answers, and we don't get them. But I'm going to stop whining and move on. Oh, I gave The Arm of the Sphinx 5 stars. I gave The Hot Kink 5 stars, and I gave The Fall of Babel, the last one, 4 stars because I am a little bit pissed. But the next one is Almond by Son Won Kyung and translated by Jusun Lee. I gave this book 3.5, well, 4 on Goodreads, but 3.5 really. And I recognize that I enjoyed parts of this more than others, and I also recognize that I don't always enjoy translated works because I think somehow after this translation, I feel like things are a little drier, especially if it's like really different languages. So like, I feel like if you're translating from French to English, I feel that culturally they're not too dissimilar. But when a translation is from a culture that, or like between two cultures that are so wide apart and there's like such a big gap between them, I feel that a lot gets lost in translation, and that, I don't know. I mean, R.F. Kuang's book, Babel, talks all about translation, and it's true. Like, a lot of things in translation, even when I say things between English and Arabic, like some things just don't have translations. And I think that's part of my problem with translated works, but also I think on the reverse, it should get you to appreciate translated works more. But this basically follows a boy who is told that there's a part in his brain that is not as developed as other people. And so he's a little different. He doesn't feel emotion or behave in the way that a lot of people around him do. And early on, actually not too, this part is written literally on the back of the book, but I feel like it doesn't happen early enough on for it to be on the back of the book, because it feels like a spoiler. You know what? I'm just not going to say it. If you want to read the synopsis, you can. But this boy basically is raised by his grandmother and his mother, who he very heavily depend on. And you just kind of see the difference between how he interacts with them and how they interact with him in this little world that they've built together, and then him outside in the world. And when he has to be alone in the world, it's really hard, and it's a little heartbreaking to see how people don't necessarily get him. And he does also, though, meet other people who learn to get him. And there was just something really lovely about this story. I enjoyed this story, but it's just the writing. I don't know. I feel like there's just something that was missing for me. Again, it's probably the translation, but I liked it. I just wasn't as obsessed with it as I thought I'd be, which I was really sad about because I thought I would like love it. But anyway, we then have Elena Knows by Claudia Pinheiro, which is another translated work. But this is what I mean. I feel like, where is this? I think it's Argentinian. I'm pretty sure is where, yes. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's Argentinian. Oh, and it's translated by Frances Riddle. But because that's not too different geographically and like yes, culturally they're different, of course, but it's not too different geographically because like America's like right there. So I feel that the translation was fine. Like I didn't feel like too much was missing between translation or in translation, right? Like not too much felt lost in translation. But this follows a woman who basically just gets news of her daughter having decided to no longer exist, decided to no longer live, and she can't accept that. And she believes that the police isn't doing their job, and she's just like, you know what? I will take matters into my own hands. I will find out who killed my daughter, because she's just like, there's no way my daughter did that, you know, ended her own life. And she also has severe chronic illness that leaves her very like not independent, and she is having to do all that investigative work with these really serious conditions that she has, and it's really interesting to observe her as a person. It's a really short read. It's like, what is it? It's under 200 pages. It's 140 something pages, and it's contemporary. And it's really good. It's really interesting. I actually enjoyed this very much. I gave this 5 stars because it was an interesting perspective between mother and daughter, and you observe their relationship in hindsight, and you just keep having like little flashbacks, and she keeps remembering certain things about her daughter, and it's really good. And it took a turn that I did not expect. So actually, eventually, I feel like I saw what was, but I don't think it. I think it still surprised me. Like it did really well with that. But next we have The Beautiful Ones by Silvia Moreno Garcia, and this is a contemporary. No, it's not a contemporary. It's, what's the word? What's Bridgerton? What like Regency, kind of like that kind of Regency vibe with a hint of magic. Silvia Moreno Garcia is one of my favorite authors, and I decided that I will read whatever she puts out. And so we follow our main character who has slight telekinetic abilities, but she's really bad at them. And I describe this book as half a soul, but edgier and a little darker. And I stand by that analogy, by that comparison, because the Regency sort of romance thing is there, but the characters are a little darker. The relationships and the interactions between the characters are darker, and our main character wants to seek the tutelage of this super famous telekinetic performer, because she can't control her own powers, and she kind of starts to develop feelings for him. But it's really messy, and that kind of telekinetic ability is the only fantasy paranormal-ish part. The rest of the story is like just human interaction, and could very easily be not a contemporary, like a sure, let's say a Regency romance situation, but it's not like too heavy on the romance either. But like I'm doing a really bad job at this. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed this a lot. It was actually a really fun read. I ended up giving this 5 stars, which is super interesting because it's not the type of thing that I tend to gravitate towards. It's not the type of book that I tend to read, but you really get our main character's character development, and it was just really fun. It was like so much drama, and I was just like, huh, this is actually kind of fun. But yeah. Other than this, I also finally finished, well, I'm actually lying. I didn't. I'm very close to finishing this poetry collection by Robert Frost. It's The Road Not Taken and Other Poems. Beautiful cover. I love this cover, but I thought that I would love this poetry collection a lot more than I did. I think Robert Frost isn't really for me. I think it feels a little too American. I kind of want to read my Goodreads review because I feel like it is really succinct, and I ended up giving this 2 stars, and I want to tell you why. So I said, I'm beyond disappointed to say this was really not for me. I'm thankful the edition I have is beautiful, so I don't regret the purchase, but I didn't find much enjoyment from this. I didn't relate. I wasn't moved. I didn't enjoy the mundanity it seemed to go for. It felt very American at times, which I am not, and so just didn't care. I don't know. I just really wanted to enjoy this, but I mean, I didn't hate it. So, and then I added this emoji. It felt very American. Like a lot of the poems are like, okay, this is, can you see that? It's like it's like conversational, and it's like telling stories, and you're like, maybe you should have just written a novel, you know, or like short stories or essays or something. Because, I don't know, it just didn't feel like poetry. That I don't want to be that person. I don't want to sound like that. But, like, sure, some of them were actually, like, nice short poems. But, there were a few that I was like, huh, that's kind of nice. But for the most part, I just thought it was fine. Like, it's just not my taste of poetry. I think I prefer poetry around nature, around human emotion, maybe mental health, things like that. Like themes that are not this. I don't know what it is. I'm still trying to put my finger on my poetry taste and try to better compose my poetry taste and the description of it and what I don't like. So anyway, those are the books that I recently read. I'm super behind on my reading for the year. I've not read as many books as I would like to, but it's fine. I'm planning on really making up for it in the summer, and I'm hoping to do more frequent wrap-ups and hopefully monthly ones, and to get a move on, and to also be on this channel more often. I'm also hopefully going to be using my bookish Instagram a bit more often, so if you want to follow that, I'll put it on the screen. It's just literally the Hannah edit, and it's the same on TikTok as well if you also want to follow that. I'm a bit more active on TikTok. It's just that this is like a thing that I'm just doing for fun, so it's not like super strict for me or anything. If I get busy and if I don't feel like doing it, I stop. But at the same time, I kind of want to do it more often. So that's the plan. Doing these videos weekly and hopefully, and posting a few times a week on both TikTok and Instagram. So it's all the Hannah edit. If you want to follow me on everything, and if you want to follow my main everything, it's Hannah Marai. So it's HANAMAR 3I. The name will be on the screen. It's the same on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. So I've been talking for a while. I've been filming a few videos in a row, but yeah, if you read any of these if you've read any of these books, let me know what you thought of them in the comments down below. And let's have a discussion. Especially if you disagree with me on any books, I would actually love to know why you disagree with me on any books, because I love listening to the different perspectives on certain books. But anyway, that's it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe because that really helps me out a lot. And if you want more content, you can click either video on the screen, and I'll see you in the next one.